I just want to talk about my concepts for a Fallout New Vegas TV show and or like a Skyrim TV show. I think it'd be really interesting to have something similar to this. My idea was that there would be a main character for each main faction you could side with. So NCR, Legion, House, Neutral. And then there'd also be a character representing the player. Well, they'd all represent the player, but like the player that like decides what they're doing over the course of the playthrough, rather than the player that already knows what they're doing when they start. So there'd be 6 couriers, just like there is in New Vegas, with you playing as Courier 6, and Courier 6 in this being the neutral, the most main character of the main characters, and the most neutral towards all the factions. And I was thinking that instead of, so the Legion obviously sends someone to go intercept the package from Mr. House that Mr. House is sending to himself. But instead of sending an actual Legionnaire to do it, they send one of the Great Khans. And the Great Khans are working for the Legion because the Great Khans hate the NCR. And they're helping the Legion because the Legion hate the NCR also. And so that's how the Legion is involved in the 6 couriers. And then there's also a member of the Brotherhood intercepting a package from House. And that's how they get involved. And then House sends one of his own personal people to go get the package for him. And then there's of the 6 known, there are 6 couriers that Mr. House gets to send to get him things. 5 of them are useless, and 1 of them is the Platinum Chip. We know that Daniel Wyant got his thing and delivered it, and he's the only known courier that has a name that I know of. I was thinking that since you find his body in Prim, I was thinking that in this he was killed by a convict and his package was taken and then by a convict, and then that convict delivered it to Mr. House. And then that convict could represent like a raider gang or faction. And then they're trying to become part of the Legion as another tribe that the Legion assimilates. And then the NCR also sends their own courier to intercept Mr. House's packages. All of those guys get the wrong package, they're all useless. And then the one person they work for Mr. House but not like incredibly loyal to Mr. House, they get the actual thing. Benny intercepts them at Good Springs, shoots him in the face, buries them in an unmarked grave. They get dug up by Victor. Doc Mitchell takes the bullet out of their face. And then I was thinking that like the first episode could be them moving from Good Springs to maybe Nipton. And then that first episode would end with like them witnessing like the Legion's atrocities. And then like through the first episode there'd be like little parts of like all the other like 5 characters. The Great Khan character I'm gonna call Orion for no particular reason other than I think it'd be a cool name. Orion would meet up with the Legion like character who I call James for no particular reason also. That was the name of my Legion playthrough, my character's name on my Legion playthrough, so that's what I'm gonna call him. And then James would like organize Orion, tell him to do stuff to like establish like the relationship between the Legion and the Khans. And then the courier that works for the Brotherhood will like go back to their base and then like maybe appear like once in the first episode and then not reappear again until the main Courier 6 runs across them when they're dealing with the Brotherhood. Or maybe when like all the, so to be a role, so like they'd stay in like, they'd obviously interact with each of the characters when they go and have their person confront the Brotherhood, because everyone kind of wants the Brotherhood to be destroyed, but not all of them like require it. Only one of them doesn't require it. Two of them don't. I was thinking the Raider one would be like maybe one of the Fiends, because the Fiends do work with the Legion in some capacity. And then they're trying to have the Fiends become a part of the Legion after the Legion takes over the Mojave area. And then the guy that works for Mr. House, I'm going to call him Boris, once again, for no particular reason, other than I think it'd be a cool name. He'd try to like resolve the issue between the NCR and the Kings, because Mr. House wants to be on somewhat good relationships with the NCR. Mr. House only wants Vegas. He doesn't really care about anything outside of it. And if he makes the NCR mad and has to go fight them, he's going to have to fight them and also the Legion at the same time. And so he wants to be on a good relationship with them, or at least good enough so that the NCR focuses more on the Legion than him. And so he'll use his person to try to like smooth over things between the people living in Vegas and the NCR. Then the NCR character, I was thinking like the main like big important thing would be Courier 6, who I will call Vance, moving from Good Springs to Vegas. That'll be like half the show, probably. Would be. I'm gonna assume like maybe 8 episodes this season. I don't know. I'm not particularly keen on how long a season of a TV show would be. It kind of depends on a lot of different things that I cannot assume. But I think Good Springs, Ghost Town gunfight, the Raider character gets involved. I said they're part of the Things. I meant to say they're part of the Powder Gangers. And then they get involved, and there's a gunfight between our main protagonist, Vance, and our kind of sort of main protagonist, I call Jacqueline. And then they win on the side of Good Springs, and then they move from Good Springs to Prim. And then they deal with that. And maybe that would be where the first episode ends. And then the second episode would be them moving from Prim to the Mojave Outpost, really interacting with the NCR. Because like before that, you like maybe see some NCR soldiers, maybe talk to a couple people. At least I did when I first played the game. But I didn't like really interact with any NCR soldiers till I got to the Mojave Outpost. And then maybe do something for them. Or maybe they like get in the way. And then move on to Nipton, and there are a bunch of powder gangers that have been beheaded, crucified. The mayor was burned alive. The Legion is actively reveling in the atrocities they're committing. And you meet Volpe Zincolta, who is one of the better characters in New Vegas, which is saying something. New Vegas has a lot of really good characters. And then you move from there to Boulder City and resolve the conflict between the Great Khans and the Legion, and then the Great Khans and the NCR. And then the NCR character and the Great Khans character are there, and they interact, probably resulting in one of them being not killed, but injured. I already have an idea for how the Great Khan character will die. I think he'd die at some point. I think if there were episodes, like each DLC was like an episode, to have like a Dead Money episode, or maybe like 2 episodes per DLC. So 2 episodes in the Sierra Madre Casino, 2 episodes in Zion, 2 episodes in Big Mountain, 2 episodes in the Lonesome Road. I'll get back to that. So you're in Vance is in Boulder City. He got shot in the head and has some memory problems, but he's starting to like remember some things about himself, about his past, about like what he's doing, like why he's doing what he's doing. He obviously like remembers like the basic stuff, like he can take care of himself, but he's not like, yeah, Vance is like a seasoned hardcore. This man has been from post-nuclear Chicago to California on foot by himself. But then he got shot in the head, and now he's not as capable as he used to be. And he's remembering that he used to be capable, and he's like, I used to be super awesome, and now I'm an amnesiac who can barely go up against some raiders who have no experience doing anything. And then once you get through Boulder City, you go to Novak, and he meets Boone, and Boone asks, and most people skip this part of the main quest, but you talk to Manny Vargas and Boone, and then the ghouls in the Repcon facility. You're gonna have to interact with those guys, and maybe like interacts with like the Brotherhood character, because they're there for the rockets. There are rockets there. The Brotherhood would be interested in something like that, so maybe they're like out there scouting. Because the rockets do technically work. They do launch, even if they don't go wherever Brights wants to go. I kind of started this video with kind of the assumption that whoever's watching it knows like a pretty decent amount about New Vegas. But then they'd go, I think it'd be good for like, I think each of the main characters would have like a companion with them. I was thinking Vance could have like maybe Arcade, and then Arcade could convince them over the course of their show to have an independent New Vegas. And that's how you get the independent New Vegas out ending. Then like, it would be either, let's see, like what if, I don't know, the Legion character interacts with the Brotherhood character, or the Raycon's character interacts with the Brotherhood character, and they like talk about how the NCR like destroyed them. The Bitter Springs Massacre and the NCR's war with the Brotherhood destroyed both groups, and they like try to recruit their Brotherhood into helping them fight the NCR. Or maybe like the Brotherhood character. Did I say the Orion, the Great Khan character, like tries to get Veronica on his side for helping the Legion? Maybe, let's see, Boone would maybe interact with the brother. Manny used to be a Great Khan. I think Orion would hate Boone because he's part of the NCR. But like, where'd that train of thought go? I think I lost it. Maybe the companions wouldn't be like a really big part of it. Maybe just like Arcade and maybe Boone. I think Boone would be like, I was thinking that maybe the Legion character, they would like over the course of the show realize like the Legion is really messed up. Let's maybe stop trying to help the Legion take over the area. So Vance, our like focal point main character has gone through Novak. He's met Boone, but hasn't recruited Boone, and someone else is gonna do that later. And he's at Vegas, basically. And he's basically in Vegas. He goes to the old Mormon fort because after after Boulder City, he starts getting like migraines from like the gunshot wound. The getting shot in the head has a general tendency, probably. I don't speak from experience, obviously, but I believe it would have some long-lasting consequences. And he goes to the old Mormon fort. He gets some medical treatment, and he meets Arcade, and he convinces Arcade to help him be a doctor to him while he's out gallivanting across the wasteland. He goes down to the strip. Maybe he'll just do some work in Freeside to make money, to pass the credit check. But he walks right past Victor, he goes right into the tops, and I don't know how specifically Vance would confront Benny. I don't think he would talk to Swank, like completely convince Swank to like have Benny like completely defanged. I think Benny would survive this encounter. I think he'd talk to Benny, and Benny would swindle him, take him to the presidential suite, and almost have him killed by his bodyguards. And then he'd escape to the fort. And then Benny would interact with the Legion and a Great Khan character before Vance shows back up at the fort. And then after that, he'd go talk to Mr. House. Mr. House would chew him out. And then Boris and Vance would both go to the fort together. And then, like, while they're traveling to the fort, the Orion and James, they interact with Benny. And, have Caesar talk to Orion and James. James would be like, so there's Caesar, Legatlantius, Lucius, and then, slightly below Lucius, there's Vulpes. I think, maybe on the same level as Vulpes would be, James. Because Caesar dies, Legatlantius is next in line. But if Legatlantius also died, it'd be Lucius. And then Vulpes is just, the spy master. Maybe, I think James would be maybe James would also be a Fermentari. I don't really think about that. Would it be good to replace... I don't think it would be. I think all the characters in New Vegas need to stay in this. So, you couldn't replace... it'd be Vulpes and Colta giving you the mark of Caesar. Unless, of course, he gets killed. Maybe there are too many characters in this. There are some characters who don't do a bunch of stuff. But maybe I'm also, because the NCR would need to... The NCR character and the Mr. House character, they would work together to stop the violence against the NCR in Freeside. And that'd be maybe a B plot for an episode. Because normally the Courier 6 would do that after they get to New Vegas. But because in this situation there are more players on more pawns on the table than just 6, things get done faster. I was thinking maybe at one point everyone gets sent by their respective boss to go check out the Sierra Madre signal, and that's how they all get into dead money. They all show up there and get gassed by Elijah. And then they need to all work together. A bunch of people who some people work together, some people will hate each other, all need to work together to go and dropkick Elijah. Dog/God, Dean, and Christine would also be there. Maybe the Brotherhood character could talk to Christine about, being in the Brotherhood. Christine wouldn't be able to talk because her vocal cords are messed up. I think at the end of the Dead Money DLC, the Great Khan character goes into the vault and he talks to Elijah, and then Elijah convinces him to, like, they work together. He works together with Elijah to destroy the NCR because this character's only motivation is his hatred for the NCR. And then everyone else trap him and Elijah in the vault. And they just leave him there. And then they get out. I think there'd be, like, maybe, like, a post-credit scene where, like, 2 characters come back, maybe 6, and, like, Jacqueline, they come back with, like, powered equipment and, like, try to break through the vault to get the gold out. Because, like, that's mostly a gameplay restriction, that you can't take all the gold. I think there's enough equipment in the Wasteland that, given enough time, you could get back into the vault, even if, like, with all the security measures in place. It's just a steel door. There's only so much. A steel door can only stop a human for so long. It's not like it's gonna, like, self-destruct if the door gets broken. That I know of. And maybe for the Honest Hearts DLC, Orion's dead. He's died of dehydration in the vault. So now it's up to James to do all the Legion's bidding. He used to be, like, commander, now he's the guy who has to go and do all the stuff. And he's in the valley trying to lead the White Legs against the Dead Horses and the Sorrows. And then maybe Vance, I think just Vance. I think this would be for Vance and James to both be, like, that's the metaphorical collision of these 2 characters, because, like, up to this point they haven't interacted at all. So maybe just be, like, 1 or 2 episodes where it's primarily these 2 characters conflicting. We'd see Falls Chalk, Waking Cloud, Daniel, and of course Joshua Graham. I survived because the fire inside me burned brighter than the fire around me. Covered in pitch, lit on fire, and then thrown into the Grand Canyon only to somehow survive. That's Vegas, baby. And then the Old World Blues. Let's see, I think it'd be like a satellite crashes and people get sent to investigate. Because of course they do. Like, the Legion wants to, like, see what it is, what's it up. The Brotherhood wants to, new technology. The Brotherhood's, like, moths to a flame, the Brotherhood to technology. And then they get trapped in the Big Empty. And then all the characters except for Vance get turned into lobotomites, and they're basically, like, non-characters. And then, like, he needs to go and, like, he doesn't want to, but he, like, has to help them for... What could be a way to explain him having to help people he doesn't like? That's the goal. That's how, like... So there are now 5 characters because Orion... There are 6 characters still because Orion's dead, and there were 7 characters. And then this one character needs to help these 5 other characters. Why would he help the characters he doesn't like? I'd say he has, like, a more neutral... Like, he's more neutral to most of them, but for, like, James, negative. He does not like James, especially after the whole deal with Zion Valley. So how would... Maybe, like... Maybe he has to, like, have them, like, for some reason, there's a technological malfunction, and his brain can only get put back in his body if everyone else's brain is put back. And then there's, like, the conversation with your own brain. How would that work? I'm still thinking about how it works from, like, in actual New Vegas. Like, I think, like, you have your brain removed and replaced with technology. But I thought, like, do you have a computer? How do you argue with your own brain when your brain is separated? My friend once said, like, you argue with your own brain all the time. That's like a subconscious thing, not like a actual saying words with your own mind. I don't know how that would work. And then maybe, I think through all of this, Eddie would be there. He'd pick up Eddie and Prim, and then Eddie would be following him around all throughout the Mojave Wasteland. And then Lonesome Rhodey's also there. And at the end, the Lonesome Rhodey dies to stop the nuclear missiles going off. Then I think the confrontation between Ulysses and the 6 most influential people in the Mojave Wasteland would be like, Ulysses will like approach each of them differently about their ideologies, and then just turn to Vance and be like the wild card. So there's like Brotherhood of Legion, NCR, Raider, House. And then there's Vance, the one who's like still making up his mind at this point. At this point, he knows he doesn't want to help the Legion, but doesn't know if he should support House or the NCR. And then Ulysses has a talk with him about it. And then I don't think they would kill Ulysses. I think they would like fight Anna out. But since this is a TV show, not a game, you can fight Anna out, but still not kill your enemy. And then maybe Ulysses would be like in the background afterwards. And then they kill all the marked men. Eddie sacrifices himself to stop the nuclear bombs, and then it goes back to the main plot of New Vegas. All the characters they meet, some characters fight the Brotherhood. All the Brotherhood line characters fight back. The Brotherhood gets recruited into the NCR. The Omertas, the White Gloves, tons of shenanigans. Like House is investigating. Like imagine like Boris trying to like simultaneously investigate the Omertas and the White Gloves. I think the chairmans are the only ones who aren't involved with the Legion at all, because Benny wants to be in it for himself, and he was in charge up until I shot him in the face, or had him crucified, or battled him in a 1v1 in the arena. I think Vance would do the 1v1. I think Vance would be like I don't think Vance would be like, you wronged me, so I'm going to kill you painfully. I think he'd be like, you have a chance. And then the Omertas, they become under new management. The White Gloves do not return to cannibalism. Or maybe they would. A few too many things are going right for Vance. The White Gloves return to cannibalism, but they don't know, and they agree to help Caesar during the raid. Maybe there's like a little arc where he goes and hunts the fiends. The thing is about New Vegas is that almost everything in New Vegas has an impact on the ending, and if you can't include everything that has an impact on the ending, because that's like half the stuff in New Vegas. Random powder gangers in a random vault have their own end slide in New Vegas. Like, the amount of times I've completed New Vegas and there was like the Vault 19 powder gangers went on to terrorize the citizens of the wasteland for years, and I didn't even know where Vault 19 was. Absurd. And then I think at the ending, like, James has realized how terrible the NCR is. James has realized how terrible the Legion is. He's not like siding with the NCR, but he's more like taking a step back, uninvolving himself. Caesar gets killed because there's no one around to like help him. He dies of the brain tumor. James either leaves or gets exiled for his failure to save Caesar. No. Caesar, doesn't die immediately. He dies after James. If James isn't there to attempt the assassination on Kimball, who would? Who would be there? So, I can't remember what his name is. Character in-game that helps you assassinate Kimball, if you're siding with the Legion, is there. They attempt to stop the assassination. I think Kimball will get maybe injured. He has been wounded, and it's like maybe unclear whether he bleeds out or not. The second battle of Hooper Dam is here. It's the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is helping. Mr. House is dead at this point, actually. As I forgot to mention that. At some point, Mr. House gets killed, and Boris gets arrested by the NCR. So he's not a factor anymore. Boris is gone, James is gone. There are 4 characters left. Wildcard, at some point, I think maybe while, like, they go and hunt the Fiend leaders, Cook, Defy, Violet, Motor Runner, like the powder gangers. There's the boomers too. Ooh. I think the powder gangers will try to join the Legion, and then that's the original character who does the Kimball assassination and like convinces the White Gloves to do the whole cannibalism thing. So imagine like Atlanteus and like a raider fighting a Brotherhood soldier, an NCR soldier, and the player character from New Vegas. Maybe like they talk, Vance would talk everyone there into a 1v1 between him and Atlanteus, and then they'd fight, and it'd be like 3 whole minutes of like Atlanteus is like 6'6" and has a giant sword, but also gun. You can outclass any melee weapon with gun. So maybe he's like fight melee 1v1 in melee combat, but like eloquently, in a way that would actually convince someone to do that. And then they do that, and it's a hard battle. He's injured, but he is alive, and like Atlanteus is dead. And the Legion begins to retreat. And then he needs to go confront Oliver, and also the NCR and Brotherhood were working together. He also needs to confront them too, now. He needs to get Oliver to leave Vegas alone. And also the other 2 characters. I'd be mostly between him and the other 2 characters. The Brotherhood character is Jessica, and the NCR character is Samantha. I did not mention their names at all. Not even once this entire time. But he'd confront them. I think the Brotherhood character, Jessica, the Brotherhood character, I think she'd be like, New Vegas can be independent as long as like it does not interfere with the NCR or the Brotherhood. And then like General Oliver would be like real mad, and then like Samantha would like talk him out of it, because like at this point Samantha's like a special like veteran ranger type, like spec ops basically. General Oliver is a general, but he's not like in charge of every single individual person. And then I think the overall ending would be an independent New Vegas with like the White Gloves need to be like, they need to like be removed because before the Battle of Hoover Dam they like all converted to cannibalism. And like the Omertas, they killed their leaders because they were working for Caesar. House is dead, obviously. Would House be dead? What if House is like contained? He's not like controlling a robot army, but he's still alive in some capacity. Technically, there is no way to do that in the game. You either kill him or you don't. Because even if, as you can technically separate his control from the Securitrons, he does die of a disease eventually. Ooh, the fort. That would really just be Vance moving through the bunker to activate the thing. Maybe it would be like him, the Raider, and Arcade. I think Arcade maybe... Well, I don't think any of the commands should be there. Well, no, Arcade's point in the thing is to convince Vance to have an independent New Vegas, because Arcade wants an independent New Vegas. So that's why I included him over the course of the show. He convinces Vance to root for an independent New Vegas, and then ultimately he succeeds. New Vegas becomes independent, and there are obviously problems, but it's like relatively stable. The NCR will probably just go around them. For now, at least. They have the dam. They have most of what they want. They have a presence in New Vegas, in New Vegas itself. But they're not, like, in charge of the place. The Legion still exists. They are weaker than they used to be, obviously. But they do exist. James, where would he go? What would he do? Maybe he could, like, go to Jacobstown. Why would he go to Jacobstown, though? Maybe he could, like, be an informant for the NCR afterwards. Or maybe he could just live in New Vegas. New Vegas is now independent of the House and the NCR, both of whom he run before. The NCR has ample reason to hate him, so why wouldn't he stay in Vegas? It's the closest place he can stay relatively safe. There'd be enough people there that he could blend in easy enough. The game kind of like, most games kind of struggle with conveying like large populations, especially like older games, because they can't have like 1 million people in them. Anyway, that's most of my thoughts about that. And then the Skyrim TV show, I don't have as many notes about that, but I was thinking there'd be like a high elf character who like used to be part of the Thalmor, and then like they'd fell out with them at some point. They still like hold their ideals, but they're not like a part of them anymore. And then it'd be a Nord character who's working with Ulfric, and an Imperial that's working with the Empire. And then I think it'd be really funny if there were like 5 Dragonborn. There are 5 Dragonborn, all of them sent down to go kill Alduin. And they also all need to work together to kill Alduin. I really like the idea of 5 incredibly powerful people who have to work together to do something that they all want to do. Like they don't know that they need to work together, but they're like, they think they need to work together enough so that they consider betraying people, but not, like, they work together, they think that they need to work together enough that they work together, but they aren't so sure that they don't think about betraying each other. I want these characters to hate each other, and to be very obvious that they hate each other. They won't hate each other at the end of it, I don't think, but for like most of it, they'll hate each other. Especially the High Elf and the Nord don't have names. I have a name for the High Elf, but not the Nord, and it'd just be easier to call them by the relatively distinctive character trait. I was thinking maybe there'd be like, my first ever playthrough of Skyrim was as a Red Guard because I didn't know how to do the character creator. But I was thinking maybe there'd be like a Red Guard that's like super obsessively collecting things, because whenever I play Bethesda games, I collect everything obsessively, and he'd be like on a quest to like collect all the Daedric artifacts and stuff. And then Skyrim is much less open with how it does stuff than New Vegas, so there's not nearly as much like stuff to interpret from Skyrim. I think like if there were ever a Skyrim TV show, it'd be definitely they'd all be character focused because most stories are character focused. That's the problem with converting like a game where you don't play as a defined character into a different sort of medium. Because the appeal of that is that you make your own character, and then you have that character, and it's still character focused, but it's around the character that you make. But since this is around a character that the audience already has an immediate attachment to, it will be harder because it's about following someone else do stuff. Following someone else do stuff is not nearly as exciting as doing stuff yourself. Excuse me. I was thinking maybe it'd be like, I think it'd be better to involve the Civil War with the like main quest, because like you can do the main quest in Skyrim without involving the Civil War maybe once. During the Peace Council, I hate the Peace Council so much. It's just so boring quest. I was thinking like they do the Peace Council and they have like the Red Guard character because they're like the most neutral of the High Elf, Dark Elf, Red Guard, Nord. Those would be like the 4 main characters, maybe. The High Elf and the Dark Elf are siding with the Empire, and then the Nord is siding with the Rebels, and then the Red Guard is like mostly neutral. And I was thinking that like over the course of the show, like they start out like here, like okay, the Dark Elf is like here, the High Elf is here, and the Nord is like here, and like over the course of the show they like get closer together. They like become like less extreme. And I think like at the Peace Council, before they go and like trap Odeming in Dragon's Reach, they like convince these two sides to like stop the war, and they're like, after the Dragon Crisis is dealt with, Alduin is dead, the Dragonborns will help destroy the Thalmor. And then maybe it would be like a completely different thing than like, maybe like the big major events of the show would be like different from the events of Skyrim. And it'd be the Dragonborns destroying the Thalmor. Or maybe that just destroy like a concept for the game. Maybe Elder Scrolls 6 is you destroying the Thalmor as a Red Guard from Hammerfell. Elder Scrolls 6 Hammerfell, destroy the Thalmor. I think, like, I feel like there are certain things in Skyrim that I want to do that I cannot. Like, I want to go and destroy the Thalmor, but I can't do that. That's like the big problem with Skyrim. In New Vegas, if I get an idea, I could probably do that idea. If I want to take a miniature nuclear device and go shoot the enemy team's leader in the face, I can just do that. In Skyrim, you cannot kill General Tullius unless you spend 4 hours taking over forts first. Same with Ulfric. You can't, the game literally says, well, no, you can't kill Alduin now, you have to do it later. And one thing I don't like about the Peace Council is that you have to have, like, there's always an exchange between the two. The Strongholds always get Markarth. There is no option where they don't get Markarth, which is dumb. The Empire also always gets a territory. That territory is just either Dawnstar or Riften. And those are your only options. There's no option to go tell both of them to stop being stupid. There's no option to be like, I am the most powerful mortal being in Tamriel. I invited you to this council. There's no option to be like, I'm not asking you to sign up his council. I'm simply phrasing it as a question to try to be polite. The Dragonborn is absurdly powerful, and that's with the gameplay restrictions. Like, I'm pretty sure lore accurate Dragonborn is like a million times more powerful than like gameplay Dragonborn. Because like most enemies, like are only take damage. Like most enemies like die in one hit. Like you shoot someone in the face with a crossbow, lore accurate, they die instantly. But in the game, they just. What was that? You can't hide from me. Must have been the wind. And then you stealth archer them again. I recently did Skyrim, like completely vanilla playthrough for the first time in several years, and it's been super fun. And like for a little bit, I did stealth archer. It was pretty fun. I think Skyrim is like the best game to like have like you have a moment where like, yeah, I'm gonna do it just because I feel like it. I'm gonna be a stealth archer just because I feel like it. I'm gonna throw fireballs at my hands just because I feel like it. I think the problem with that is like in Skyrim, there's always an objectively best option, which is stealth archer. It is always objectively best to be a stealth archer in Skyrim, and that's it. Maybe you'll be a stealth backstab. Use the exploit with the shrouded gloves to do 30 times damage with daggers to insta-kill basically every enemy. But stealth is always the best option in Skyrim. Because enemies can't hear you. It's absurd. Like, an enemy will literally be, like, this close to you, and they won't know that you're there somehow. But then other times, they won't know that I'm there, and I stab them in the back, and they just get stabbed in the back, and I don't get a stealth crit. And it's like, what's the point? Like, why have a stealth system if it's broken half the time? It just works. Skyrim is, like, the last thing that Bethesda did that was, like, good enough that I could overlook its flaws. Like, New Vegas is Fallout 3, but with better gameplay and infinite, like, a million times as good writing. Skyrim, I can't compare Skyrim to any other Elder Scrolls game because it's the only Elder Scrolls game I've played so far. I'll play Oblivion at some point, eventually. I don't have an excuse, I just don't feel like it. I've played a small amount of Oblivion. Of the Oblivion I played, I feel like they had the game same, like, feel. Like, Skyrim is a dime, Oblivion's like a penny. There's both small coins worth, like, a small amount. Well, like, a dime is, like, slightly, like, barely noticeably smaller than a penny. And they're obviously colored different and worth different amounts. But that's, like, they're both coins made out of metal and worth money. I feel like this allegory got away from me at some point. Anniversary Edition is really weird. I think, like, if Anniversary Edition was integrated better, it'd be, like, way better. Because, like, you just kind of find a note, you read the note, go get this incredibly powerful suit of armor, go fight a cult, go buy a goat from some guy you haven't met before, go, here's a house, do whatever with it. Get all the pieces to the dwarven horse. Crossbows. There are two that are just crossbows. Why are they two different things? The bone arrows are useless. There are already dragon bone arrows in the game, and if you want to craft, and they do slightly. They do 1 more point of damage. 26 compared to 25, but they're 10 times as expensive. It takes 10 dragon bones to make a anniversary edition bone arrow, and it costs 1 dragon bone to make a dragon bone arrow in base game. Useless. The Saints and Seducers is like, it's technically not part of it. It's part of the update, but not part of the upgrade. So it's like, on one hand, you kind of expect it to be like a lower quality because it's like a free thing. That's like, and it is, but like, it's not terrible. It's just like underwhelming. Like, it's just more stuff. Like, it's just another set of armor, just more weapons, more conjuration spells that I'm never gonna use. I don't like conjuration. First, most important thing, spell absorption absorbs conjuration spells. So every time I try to use a conjuration spell, there's an 85% chance it just doesn't work. Unless it's a resurrection spell. And also, conjuration, it's pretty weak at the higher levels. And my current character is level 256. Level 256. That is high enough level to have all the perks in the game. The only reason I'm level 256 instead of 251 is because I wanted all my attributes to be an even 50. I have 1,000 magic, 1,000 health, and 850 stamina. My character is basically untouchable by anything except the Ebony Warrior